Welcome to Inside the Studio, KFIZ at 100. Conversations with some of the station's biggest and brightest all-time personalities. I'm your host, Sean Kaiser. This episode features longtime morning show host Jerry St. John. He grew up in Milwaukee and went to college at UWM, where he initially majored in pre-med.
After the first year, I realized my bedside manner would be great, but I'd be a lousy doctor. So I changed majors, and that's when I ended up in communications and public relations, basically.
Jerry landed his first radio job in 1968 at a station in Menomonee Falls.
The format back then was called Middle of the Road, and that's a historical format, no longer around, but that was kind of what the big people listened to. I mean, there were Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra.
After a stop in Racine, Jerry came to Fond du Lac and was hired at KFIZ in the mid-1970s by Joe Gazer.
And I basically filled in for him on weekends. Getting up early on a Sunday morning was a challenge, but we managed to succeed. And then I filled in wherever I was needed.
Jerry also did work for sister station WFON, hosting the popular Saturday night program, The Wax Museum.
One of my most enjoyable radio gigs. Saturday night fun. We had a lot of listeners and a lot of phone calls. I'd bring my wife in to take calls, or one of my daughters, because I couldn't. There were 2-minute songs. I had to plan ahead. I didn't have time to take calls, but we did a lot of requests.
In 1996, Jerry was named host of KFIZ's morning show, The Breakfast Club.
The best part was the interaction with people. Kind of ended up being, quote-unquote, the face of KFIZ. I mean, I got to go out and do public appearances for all kinds of things, volunteering to MC this and do strange things wearing that. A lot of local interviews, a lot of phone calls.
And a big part of that show was its signature open, the playing of the famed Good Morning song.
Originally, I had an alarm going off, and one of the sisters of St. Agnes called one morning and said, "Why do you have that alarm sound? It wakes me up." I had people sing with it in the morning. I sang with it. Bob Nelson tried to sing with it. Jeff McAndrew tried to sing with it.
On Fridays during the Packers season, there was a different song Jerry would play, the famous Packers polka.
We just got everybody in the studio, so there were about 15 of us, and we all faithfully sang that Packer polka before a Packer game. But we had a ball doing it, and you'd hear about it on the street, which was kind of nice.
Jerry was also instrumental in leading the annual Auction for the Arts.
We were out there. They had a bunch of people answering the calls and people showing up, and it was just one of those really good times, and it raised a lot of cash, which was needed, and we felt really good about it.
Just last week, Jerry retired, but he will always love KFIZ.
There aren't very many radio stations in this country that can claim a 100th anniversary. It's got to be very pride-inducing to anybody here or who has been here to be part of the legacy of a century-old radio station.
Thanks for joining us, and keep listening for more episodes of Inside the Studio, KFIZ at 100.